you are. And I looked at the screen and he hasn't spell checked the slide. And he's about to introduce me as Wendy Whittaker-Large. And I sat there and I thought, ha-ha, I'm going to turn adversity to my advantage. What do you think of that? How many of us in property have to turn adversity to our advantage? In fact, that's a key skill that we learn, isn't it, as we grow on our property journey, that turning adversity into advantage helps us, but it helps other people too. So I realised I was actually going to use this to turn adversity into advantage and to think of a phrase that would use my new name of Wendy Whittaker-Large. And I decided that I was going to use the idea of growing a big portfolio. And how do you do that? Well, you have to think big to grow larger. So I'd like you this evening to think big and to grow larger. You can do better than that. You're going to think big and you're going to grow larger. Perfect, wonderful. And that's exactly what I did. I started investing in HMOs about 4 years ago. Now, up until that time I had a handful of single let properties and they were doing okay. But I realised that there was more that could be achieved, more that I could achieve, and more income that I could achieve from HMOs. So I did a small HMO to start with, which I'll share with you in a minute. And since then, I have grown a large portfolio, and this is just a selection of some of my properties. I now have a multi-million-pound portfolio of HMOs, and I run a lettings business as well. We have over 150 units now that we rent out to our tenants, and we work with investors and lots of other people who want to get started in HMOs. Now, this has only happened over the period of 4 years. So if any of you are thinking, I've left it too late, or time is not on my side, you haven't. It's never too late. Because it doesn't require where you start with, it requires how you think. And if you think big, you can grow larger. That's it. You've got it. Fantastic. But I'd like you to think for a minute about financial freedom. Because for all of us, that actually means something different. For some of us, it might be a few £1,000s a month. For others, it might be quite significantly more than that. Whatever your figure is, though, I would like you just for a second or two to think about that figure. Don't tell anybody. You don't even have to write it down. But I want you to have that figure almost engraved at the front of your mind. Because I was in a meeting just like this about 4 years ago when somebody put that question. And I wrote that down, I wrote the answer down. And I said to myself, I want to achieve that figure in 2 years. And the figure was £6,000. At the time, my husband had a very stressful job in IT. In fact, he worked in Sawbury Bridge, just down the road. There's a very big centre for Lloyd's there, the Lloyd's IT centre, some of you might know it. Oh, you probably know it. And I'll talk to you later. No, really? And he had done lots of other IT contracting jobs. Anybody in the room an IT contractor? Or work in banking? Yeah, some people are never going to admit it, are they, though? And he was really stressed. His job was pretty overwhelming, pretty difficult, and I could see that this was just grinding him into the ground. I was also working part-time. We had 4 boys, 4 growing boys. They hadn't yet left home. They sort of slowly started to leave home. And I could see that as a family, we had so many pressures on us. Unless we took a different turn, unless we changed our lifestyle, we were never going to get out of this rut. And I don't know if any of you can relate to that you just sometimes feel you're stuck in a rut. So what I did was I invested in HMOs. But this figure of financial freedom was so important to me because it gave me a clear goal. And I believe that's really important to you as well. So I really ask you tonight to think about what is that figure. However, what I also find is that people say, well, I've got the figure, but how do I get there? So what I'd like to share with you tonight is how you can achieve financial freedom through HMOs. In fact, it's my mission to inspire you to achieve financial freedom through HMOs. Now, I know some people say, well, I don't really do HMOs. I'm more of a single let kind of person. Or, well, I'm into commercial conversions. And that's fine. But I do believe that actually HMOs can bring such a valuable long-term source of income and wealth that you shouldn't ignore them. They should be part of every serious property investor's portfolio. So, what is your number? You've all got a number. And another thought that you might have occurred to you is, what if you'd started a year ago? Or what if you'd started 5 years ago? Anybody ever had those kind of regrets? Raise your hand. Yes, me too. In fact, we were saying in the break, we'd all be millionaires in hindsight. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But what if you don't start today? What will happen in a year's time? What will you be doing a year from now? Today is the day when you need to take action and say yes to those opportunities that come and make that change for your life. So why should we invest in HMOs? What is the special magic that HMOs bring, both to our economy and also to us as investors? Well, I've got some statistics that I'd just like to share with you. If I can say the word. Statistics. There we go. And you'll see that this is from the ONS, the Office of National Statistics. Just about said it there. That the most common unit of renter, if you like, is the single individual. More single people rent than do couples or families. Now, does that surprise you? No? Some people saying, shaking their heads, no, that doesn't surprise them. Maybe for others it is a bit of a surprise. Because I think the media likes us to think that actually, as property investors, we have a responsibility to let to families. But actually, more people are renting who are individuals. Now, why might that be?
Could be working away from home.
Brilliant, absolutely. They could be working away from home.
Less ties.
Less ties, exactly. They can move around more.
Divorced people.
Divorced people.
Young people.
Yes, young people just left home. Students as well. They're single, aren't they? It could be that somebody actually is married and they've got a family home, but they're working away, as you said. Or that because of family situations, they need a room. There's lots of different reasons why people rent individually. Now, this is the government white paper, which came out about 3 months ago, I believe. And this is, of course, before the general election was announced. So that's going to be fun. I wonder who's going to win. But in this document, Fixing Our Broken Housing Market, there's a real emphasis here on helping people to get into affordable housing. And one of the things I really believe about HMOs is it's very affordable because you often have one price for everything. Everything is all inclusive. So let me just do a straw poll. How many of you have got a phone? Yeah, raise your hand. How many of you got a phone, first of all? A mobile phone? I think nearly everybody. Okay. Now, raise your hand again if you've got a mobile phone. Now, put your other hand up if you pay separately for texts every month. Put your other hand up if you pay separately for line rental every month. No, or phone rental every month. So you pay one price and everything's included, including data, yes? Would you rather pay one price every month where everything's included, or pay separately for all those different items? Together or separate? Who's on the side of all together? Raise your hands. And who's on the side of separate? Raise your hand. It's the same for HMOs. People don't want to pay bills separately. It's hassle, it's a nightmare, it's having to communicate with the other tenants. You know, what could be worse than having to communicate with your neighbours? Can't believe it. No one wants to do that. So that's why they love to have one price where it's all inclusive. Now, this is also another useful, interesting graph, because this shows you this is actually 2015, so you can imagine the trajectory is a little bit further off the scale now. But this is a ratio of median, so in the middle, house prices to median earnings. And I think what we see in the media all the time is how unaffordable housing is. So this shows, it demonstrates that actually, you know, house prices are becoming more and more expensive for people. Fewer and fewer people are able to buy property. I'm sure that's true in Leeds as in anywhere else. Now, one thing I would say about Leeds, I like Leeds because, not because of the one-way system. That's what I don't like about Leeds. I just have to say that first of all. But what I love about Leeds is you're similar to where I live, which I live between Crewe and Stoke-on-Trent. Anybody been to Crewe or Stoke-on-Trent? Yes, great. So you know where I live. It's about 2 hours down the motorway, not too far away at all. And our house prices are broadly similar to the ones here. And what I find is when I go to London, sometimes I go to London and speak, they don't understand me. They just don't understand me. Because I speak English, and I've got a southern accent, because I was actually brought up in the south. But then I say, £70,000. And I get a blank look. They don't know what that means. So then I remember, I know what I have to do in the south. I've got to add a zero. So then I say £700,000. Oh yes, we know what you mean now, Wendy. Yes, of course, 700,000. Yes, we understand that figure. There's lots of money in London. If you're looking for money to invest, go to London. There's lots of people with money in London. But they don't understand the prices of houses. I would like to say north of Watford, but I think it's probably even a bit further north than that anymore. So Leeds is great for investing. Now, the other thing why Leeds is great for investing is because you can see here that the average age of the first-time buyer is about 36 in Yorkshire. Does that surprise you? What do you think about that number? Does it seem high? Seems high, doesn't it? But look at London. Exactly, look at London. You know, you're not far off retirement, are you? And you just started your 25-year, 35-year mortgage. Not good. And what about pensions? Now this is a really scary slide, isn't it? This is a really scary one because this shows annuity rates since 1991 down to 2013. Again, it's a few years behind. In 1991, you could get an annuity for 15% per annum on your pension. Now, annuity rates, well, in fact, they're about 3% now. So who here has got a pension? That's why you're in the room, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Because you know this isn't going to pay out. You know it's not going to work for you. There has to be a different way. So let me ask you, I'd like to find out a little bit about the audience. I'd like you to raise your hand if you already invest in HMOs. Okay, some of you. Raise your hand if you would like to invest in HMOs in the next year. Okay, brilliant. Raise your hand if you've got absolutely no idea what I'm talking about and you've come to the wrong meeting. No, good, that's brilliant. Okay. So when we talk about HMOs, we're talking about House of Multiple Occupation, HMO. Paul, you'll appreciate this. As I often say, it's only one letter away from HMP. You have to be in the prison service to understand that one. No, not really, because actually our HMOs are not like prisons. They're run to be beautiful, lovely houses.
Not been to Hull then.
No, I don't invest in Hull. And this guy, he's just got his letter of his annuity through the post. He wished he'd invested in HMOs. So that's a picture of me and my family. There was actually another little one just developing at the time. And, you know, that's me getting my master's degree. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why I started to invest in property later on. And some of the mistakes I've made, because I've made loads of mistakes. And some of you sitting in the room might think, well, it's all right for you because you've got good education. It's all right for you because you've probably got some money. It's all right for you because you probably never made any mistakes. Actually, none of those things are true. And I'll tell you a bit more about that later. But first want to share with you about my very first HMO. So, because my husband was in IT, when you do a project in IT for the first time, it's called a beta project. Has anybody heard that before, a beta project? Yeah, you heard the word? So he was very cautious and he said to me, look Wendy, if we're going to invest in HMOs, we need to test the model and see if it works. So I said, okay, we'll go slowly, we'll go carefully. And this was our very first HMO. It was a 4-bed, it was actually a 2-bed terraced house. And I know you have a lot of these in Leeds, 2-bed terraces. And of course the benefit of this is that this didn't need to be licensed, and it wouldn't even fall into the new licensing rules, which haven't actually been brought in yet, because that's for 5 beds and over. So we paid £78,000 for this property, spent about 7 because it was in quite good decorative order, and it got revalued at 98. Ka-ching! That's what I say to that one. The rental income is actually a little bit higher than that now, but we make about £750 a month profit. Whoa! How many of those do you need? You know that figure in your head that seems so far away? Ooh, 2 or 3 of those? You're going to be a lot closer, aren't you? Not difficult. And there are lots of people, if you haven't got any money, there are lots of people who would loan you money on that kind of deal to make that work. So, great stuff. So that really worked for me. And after we did that property, my husband said, I think this works. And I said, I do as well. And you know, the one thing I've proven to you, darling, is I'm good at reproduction. Yes, that's true. So that's exactly what we decided to do. Not in the baby department though, just HMOs. And typically we buy these kind of Victorian terrace properties because, well, let me ask you, why do you think we would buy a property like that? They're big, spacious, good layout.
Well built.
Yes, they're solid.
Lots of them are cheap.
Yeah, lots of them in the cheap. And what do you often find with these kind of properties? Because they're older, who's maybe been living in them for years and years and hasn't done anything to them? Older people. So do they need a bit of a refurb anyway? So are you bringing them back to life? You're doing something good for the economy and for property? Yeah, you are, aren't you? These kind of properties really excite me. Really, I know how to turn these properties into HMOs. We've got a few others that don't quite fit this model, but these ones work really well. Now, one of the pieces of work that we did in our business, because we were investing in Crewe and Stoke, was to compare ourselves to what other people were doing. Because I was learning as I was going. And to start with, I didn't have anybody else to help me. To start with, I just threw myself in and I did it on my own. And I know that that now was a mistake. But at the time, I didn't know any better. And so therefore, we looked around at other people to see what other people were doing. I always wanted to turn properties into high-quality HMOs where young professionals would want to live. So we really made sure that every property was turned out to its best quality that it could be. Now, that meant, of course, being careful about the budget. We didn't want to go overboard, but we wanted to make sure that we offered really good quality rooms. So one day, I went on to Spare Room. Who here's heard of Spare Room? Yeah, many of you have. It'll become your best friend, actually, Spare Room, or your worst enemy, depending whether you're having a good month or not. And I noticed that in Crewe, the average room rents were about £374. And in Stoke, they were £339 per month. But we were getting £433 a month in Crewe and £411 a month in Stoke, on average. And I began to realise that actually, when you put quality into your buildings, you get quality out of your buildings. Not only do you get better tenants, you get longer lasting tenants, and you also get less turnaround, therefore more profit. So I did a bit of a calculation on this, and that's Crewe, main train station. We realised that in Crewe we were getting an month, and in Stoke it was an extra £72 per month. Now let's just compound that up, shall we? So in Crewe, an average, somebody else's HMO, an average 5-bed was getting £1,870 a month, but we were getting £2,165. So every month we were getting nearly £300 more for exactly the same. All inclusive, nice rooms, everything seemed identical. But look, every year how much more we were making. Over £3,500. And in Stoke we were making more than nearly £4,500 per HMO. Wow. So on just 2 HMOs we were able to make much more juice from the lemon than many other landlords were able to do. And I realised it's partly because we had a system. You see, when you have a system, it saves time and it saves money. Who here likes to save time and money? Raise your hand. Yes, brilliant, don't we all? Now, what I said to you earlier is quite true. I'm not a very systematic person. But I realised that actually systemising and having a simple system I could follow was going to help me, and it was going to enable me to go faster, and it was going to enable me to minimise costs and maximise, because I was thinking big and therefore growing
margin.
Thank you. So I developed a simple 5 steps to HMOs, and it's really the 5 F's to financial freedom. So find it, finance it, finish it, fill it, and future-proof it. And if it's okay with you, I would like to share with you find it and future-proof it. The other 3 steps we'll have to leave for another time. However, I'm very proud to say that as a result of systemising my business, I actually wrote a book. I wrote a management manual for our company, and the 5 F's are in my book, which is 101 essential tips for running a professional HMO, giving you time, money, and freedom. So you can buy that book, and that has all my 5 F's in it in a very easy to read format, and you can buy that on all good bookshops, including Amazon. Now, one of the things I said to you earlier on was that I had made some mistakes, and actually I told you a bit of a white lie. Sorry. You see, it wasn't actually 4 years ago that I started investing in HMOs. It was actually about 20 years ago. I had 2 boys at the time. You can see they've kind of been part of my journey of investing. And a relative had died, leaving us with about £25,000 to invest. And I was really excited. And the reason I was really excited was because I felt it was a new opportunity for me. I felt it was a new start. Because my life had really been marked by failure. I'd gone to a really good girls' grammar school, which is probably why I talk the way I do. And honestly, if they had done A-levels in boys and partying, I would have got A stars. Probably I would have got 100%, because I was that good at boys and partying. But I wasn't really good at studying. And I flunked my A-levels. And I don't know about you, but if ever you've had expectations, perhaps from other people, about your life, or expectations you placed on yourself about what you want to achieve, and you don't make it, it can leave you with a really heavy sense of failure. And I lived with that for many years. And so when this money came in, I said to my husband, I said, look, we could use this to do something for our boys. We could create something for their future. And he agreed. And I walked in, I remember walking to the estate agent's office and saying, I'm here to buy a property. And she must have thought, whoa, this is my lucky day. Because I was so naive. Now, in the town that we lived, there was a college, and they had students. And as it happened, my very first property that I ever bought was a 5-bed multi-let to students. I know, unbelievable, isn't it? As I said, I just didn't know what I didn't know. But I was really excited because I thought, fantastic, Wendy, you are going to be the next big thing in property. Look at you, girl. You've not only bought your first rental property, it's a student multi-let, because HMO wasn't even invented at that stage. You're going to make loads of money, you're going to be really wealthy, everyone's going to look to you, you're just going to be a star. Oh yes, go girl. And I was really hyper about it all. And I remember kind of swanning around the house thinking, yeah, I'm buying my first property. It's going to be great for my boys, it's just going to be fantastic. And I was really kind of, my ego was flying. Got the keys, the students just stayed, no problem, easy peasy. I thought this property investing lark is so easy. I don't know why more people don't do it. And the months ticked by. And it was about January, I can't quite remember the year, must have been 1997. And I remember waking up, and it wasn't because it was cold outside, but I woke up in a cold sweat. And I don't know if you've ever woken up in a cold sweat. It's like your subconscious is telling you something, and you suddenly become aware of something. And I really literally felt my body clammy, because suddenly I realised I hadn't checked the rents for about 3 months. I hadn't checked any maintenance at the property since I bought it really. I wasn't sure that the bills were being paid because the students were supposed to pay it. I hadn't checked the garden because in fact there was quite a nice garden at the back. I mean, I assumed they were probably mowing the lawn regularly because they were responsible, good students. But I thought, I need to go down there. I need to go and check that this property is okay. So I got dressed, got in the car, drove the 3 minutes that it took me to get there. And I pulled up outside the house and I looked at it. I thought, it looks absolutely fine. It looks exactly the way it was the day the students moved in. A few beer cans outside, curtains closed, no signs of life. So I went up and I knocked on the door. And of course they weren't expecting me, so I sort of knocked harder and shouted, hello, Wendy here. And I went in. And as I opened the door into the hallway and walked in, this strange smell reached my nostrils. I thought, this is a really odd smell. I couldn't quite place it. It wasn't cooking, but it was kind of warm and musky. There's something, I can't quite place that smell, but anyway, it's a bit strange. I thought I need to go upstairs and just check around the property, please do a sort of maintenance check. So I walked upstairs and I tried to open the first bedroom, tried to push the door open the first, and literally I could not open the door. And I pushed it open, and there, up to thigh height, was somebody's horticultural project. And I have to say I was very surprised because I was sure they were all sports scientists. So to see all this greenery in the house, I thought, we've got a lovely garden. Why grow them inside? And then I looked up and I saw the foil on the ceiling and the lights. And the penny dropped. I was very naive. And I could hear some movement downstairs in the kitchen. I ran down into the kitchen. And there were 3 guys sitting kind of where you are. Do you know what they were doing? They were lovely and relaxed. Their exams didn't seem to bother them at all. And I'm sure they didn't have any coursework to give him because they were having a lovely smoke. And I realised they were having a smoke of the cannabis that they'd grown upstairs in my house. And I said to them, if you don't clear out that stuff by the end of the week, I will be clearing you out by the end of the week. Do you understand? Do you feel scared? No. And that's what they said to me. Wendy, just have a drive. So much better. I was furious. I thought, how dare they? This is my property. They have abused my trust. They have ruined this property. This could have gone up in smoke. It's terrible. I can't believe this has happened to me. How could they do it? And they really saw my temper that day. And by the end of the week, they had cleared it up, thankfully, and the police didn't need to get involved. But as I drove home that day, I was absolutely furious because I was doing something that not many people would do. Taking risks, buying property, being the new property guru of South Cheshire? Well, maybe. And as I drove home, I felt so angry. I felt so angry with these people who I had trusted. But then suddenly, it hit me. Wendy, who have you got to blame but yourself? Who was it who didn't check the maintenance? Who was it who didn't check the rents? Who was it who didn't call round and make sure that everything was okay? And I felt such a sense of shame at that point that I vowed, when the students left, I would never do multi-lets ever again. And I didn't. For 18 years. And then I came across this guy. Anybody recognise him?
Yeah.
Yes, I came across Rich Dad Poor Dad. And one of the things that he says is financial freedom is a mental, emotional and educational process. And I realised then that actually I hadn't educated myself. I hadn't invested in me. I had spent money on a property, which was great, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I hadn't learned how to do it. And because I didn't have a system, I didn't have a process, I could have wasted my opportunity. And I felt very guilty about that. And I vowed that actually, if ever I did have a property portfolio that enabled me to be financially free, that I would help others, like you, to find financial freedom through education and mentoring. So I now run a workshop, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. If you are interested in coming to the workshop, it's on Saturday, May the 20th in Stoke. I'll tell you a bit more, 9:30 till 5, and lunch and refreshments are included, so even better. So I will probably have some other dates later in the year, but that's the one we've got coming up in about 2 weeks' time. And as I say, it's only 2 hours down the motorway. So what is my 5-step system? What is the system I use now to create these HMOs? So would it be okay with you if I shared with you 2 of those steps tonight? Yeah? Great, okay. And a lot of people do say to me, Wendy, how do you find an ideal HMO? So I did quite a lot of research into this and realised that there's 2 key factors that you need to analyse when you're looking for HMOs. And the first one, let me just go through this. So these are 5 steps to finding it, but I'm going to tell you 2 key steps in a minute. So the 5 aspects that we look at. You need to master your market. Know who it is you're trying to rent to. Who is it you're trying to develop an HMO for? So in this room, let me just ask, how many of you are looking to do professional HMOs? Raise your hand. What about students? Anyone interested in students? Possibly? Or LHA, local housing allowance? Okay, brilliant, great. There's room for all of us in the market, okay? Everybody needs housing, so that's really cool. Then you need to analyse your area, scout to source, prepare the project, and decide on the deal. It's a bit like these guys were saying earlier, Graham, you were talking about this, working backwards. You need to learn how to do that to make sure that your deal is going to work for you. So, first of all, let's think about the different types of market that you might be aiming for. Well, there's many different stratas within the marketplace, and these are some of them. You might decide to focus on mini-mos. So like my first HMO, which had the 4 rooms in it, maybe that's where you want to focus. Maybe there is a need for good accommodation for hospital staff. So perhaps that's where you could niche. I do believe that with the growth of HMOs, it's going to be more and more important for people to niche their product. If you find a niche, stick with it. Make it work for you. Master your market. And the 2 steps that I told you about are macro and micro areas. So these are where we go drill into much more detail into a locality and find out if it's going to work as an HMO. So, as a macro location, these are the things you need to be looking out for. A population of 80,000 or more. Anything that's got under 80,000 people doesn't seem to work for an HMO. Now obviously in Leeds, you're absolutely fine. Is anybody investing in towns outside of Leeds or looking to do that? Raise your hand. So you need to check the population is at least 80,000. That's gives you enough people, gives you enough population size, but it also gives you enough variability within that population as well. You also need to look for different property types. One of the things that I found is that where you have a town where there's either a great concentration of one-bed flats, or there's a lot of new housing developments, and there isn't much variety, you find those don't work so well for HMOs. Because what HMO tenants like to do is move on, and move up, and move out. And if there aren't other houses for them to do that, they can't do it. So you need to make sure there's a selection. It's like a ladder. If they move out of the HMO, can they go somewhere next? Transport, kind of fairly self-explanatory. And a connection to the wider region. Now, I know that up in Leeds, I think, are you going to get an HS2 hub? Has that been talked about? Possibly. Yeah, about 150 years, yeah, that's right. So anyway, we shall see. But these kind of connections to a wider region, because people do travel, don't they? They don't always live where they work, they travel. So you need to think about where your place is connected to and how it's connected to. Obviously, employment and study locations. One good tip that I'll give you is to look at your council's local plan. Now, the local plan will outline where the council sees the new developments happening in the next 5 to 10 years. And that will give you a really good insight into what the local council are going to be putting money into. So you can download that and have a read of it. Local facilities like doctors and hospitals and retail facilities and leisure. And also supply and demand. Now, I haven't got time to do it this evening, unfortunately, but on the one-day workshop, we look at deep analysis of supply and demand in a local area. Using a number of different websites, we factor in the data and look at how you can analyse supply and demand in a particular location. So if you're not totally convinced or confident that your area is going to work for an HMO, then this analysis will teach you that. If you also want a free chapter, the first chapter of my book, you can go to wendywl.uk and download a chapter, the first chapter of my book, and that has all this information in it as well. So the second step is to prepare the project so you can decide on the deal. Apologies for the very typeface here.
Is that .co.uk?
No, just UK.uk. So lots of figures here. Again, we go into more detail in the workshop, and we practice filling out a spreadsheet. And in fact, on the one-day workshop, you get a unique HMO deal analyzer spreadsheet that has all the figures that you need. And you even get a specification that a builder might work to. So if you've never done a refurb before, as I hadn't, one of the things I found almost impossible to judge was the cost. How much was it going to cost me to refurb? I didn't have any idea. So I put together a really easy cheat sheet for you so you can get a rough estimate of how much a refurb would be. How many of you would find that useful? Yeah? Great. Now, Andy was a guy I worked with from London, and he identified his macro area and also his micro area. Now, the micro area is where we look for specific streets. So we focus right down on a number of streets in a specific location and find out whether any of those properties on that street would work for you as an HMO. A couple of tips on your micro location. We found that houses on double yellow lines don't rent so well. Why do you think that might be? And it isn't the most obvious one, actually. It's not necessarily because of parking. People think it's often because of parking. A lot of HMO tenants don't have cars, actually, but it's because it's a sign of a busy road. So if you can avoid double yellow lines, that's one to look for. Another one is a corner shop. I can't tell you the number of times I've met a tenant and he said, yeah, I think I'll move in here, Wendy, yeah, it's fine, yeah, I like it. And I said, oh, that's great, Tony. Why do you like the room? You know, is it the decor, beautiful curtains, the lovely, comfortable orthopedic bed? Is it, what we put, the effort we put into the room? No, Oh, in fact, you've got a spa 3 doors down. I can get my ciggies and milk in the morning. Great, thank you very much, Toby. A corner shop. That's my tip for you. Find properties where there is a local corner shop, because it's so useful for tenants to have somewhere where they can buy little pints of milk, you know, little cartons of milk. So Andy followed the system. He identified his macro and micro area, and he converted a minimo, and he now cash flows over £1,200 a month from this one deal that he did by following the 5-step system. And he's doing more deals now all the time. Now, for many of us who've either had HMOs or perhaps invested in the past, old-style landlords sometimes, this is their definition of an HMO, a high-maintenance operation. Who wants one of them? Ooh. Would you rather have a huge money-making opportunity? Yes, you're right, Suzanne. I'd rather have the latter as well. A huge money-making opportunity. But what I notice is that many people get the first 4 steps right. They find them, they fund them, they finish them, and they fill them. But what don't they do? Well done. They don't future-proof them. So I'd like to share with you some simple tips to help you future-proof your HMO so it doesn't become the former and continues to be the latter. How many of you like the idea of that? Because we're aiming for financial freedom, and to do that we have to think big, grow, large. Well done, thank you everybody. Get it to work. So future-proof it. So there's 3 areas that we need to future-proof. We need to maintain our customers. Our tenants are our customers. So how do we maintain them? We need to manage the HMO, and we need to maximise returns. One of the statements that we use in our company is, if you treasure it, then you measure it. And just as if you are maybe a little larger than you would like to be, you might go on a diet to slim down, you measure your weight loss. And if you are in business, you measure your KPIs. And what are KPIs? Thank you. Key performance indicators, that's right. So we measure these each and every month. So would you like to see a simple, very simple but very effective spreadsheet so you can measure your KPIs as well? Yeah? And I'm sure you can improve on this as well. So this is a 6-bed HMO, one of ours in Stoke, and it's licensed because it's on 3 floors. So this was just a snapshot of a year's work that we did on this HMO, year's income. So the rents due were 28,800. We collected 27,300, so we were a bit low on the rent collected, what we should have had. So we saw that 93% of the rent was collected, and we could see that we had 1 vacant unit over a period of 1 month. We spent £1,200 on maintenance over the whole year, which is pretty good, and as a percentage of income it was only 4%. So good levels of maintenance spend, not high. We had, though, 1 tenant who got into arrears, sadly, and we learned from that. The benefit of having these KPIs and doing them on a monthly basis is you look at them and you go, what can we learn from them? It's not about being perfect, but it's about perfecting. So the system is there to help you get better. So we knew then we had to take faster, quicker, more efficient action with people who got into arrears. We learned that. It only cost us £95 across the whole year to advertise, and apart from that the whole house was filled, and it took us 8 days on average to fill a room. So some really useful information, and every month now we do these KPIs, and every year we look at them, and we look at them property to property, and we look at them across the portfolio and in those 2 areas as well. And I would suggest that if it matters to you, you need to be treasuring what you measure and measuring what you treasure as well. Has anybody got any questions about that? Okay. Now, if you don't future-proof, as many people find to their cost, you will have a lot of problems. What kind of problems might you face if you don't take care of your property or your customers?
Sorry?
Sorry?
Lost
Lost keys. Oh, yes, keys. I've got an answer to that one. What else?
All the seats you got on board.
General decline, neglect. Lose its shine, doesn't it? It starts not to be so nice anymore. It takes longer to rent. Suddenly what was an asset turns into a liability. Horrible. Now let me just show you another tip. Excuse me, sorry about this. Keys. So I told you I've got over about 146 units now, and many landlords have huge bunches of keys. Have you seen them? They've got huge big key cupboards. I've seen pictures of these at Progressive. Look at our big key cupboard. And I think, no thanks, I don't want any of that. So one tip I'd give you when you're setting up your HMO, use a master key system. This key opens all the doors across all the rooms and all the front doors in all the properties. One key. Now yes, it's a bit more expensive to fit a master key system, the suite key lock, but it will save you time, and that will save you absolutely. So that's a really good. Thank you for bringing up keys. That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. You find that really useful. Another little tip is we give these key rings to all our tenants. We have them printed, and it's got our logo, Best Nest, and on the back it says, "Please keep your key safe. It costs £45 to replace it," and they get one of those with their room key. Of course, if they lose the room key, they lose the fob as well. So you know. Long term, but the message goes through. So you need to make sure that you are maintaining your properties and also keeping your tenants happy, your customers. Now, I've got a lot more tips. I've got a lot more I'd love to share with you. In the years that I've been doing HMOs, I have perfected each of these systems to make it as hands-free as possible. We now run a paper-free office. So we don't have any paper in our business. It's all paper-free. We have a scalable system, and it means that we can grow really fast. In fact, this year alone, we've done 6 HMOs, and we're on a commercial conversion right now. We've done a lot already with a small team. There's just 4 of us, okay, working Best Nest. So if you'd like to be efficient, if you would like to learn that simple 5-step system in more detail, I'd like to invite you to my Ultimate HMO Success Workshop. Would you like to know more about it?
Yes.
Would you like to know more about it? Yes. Great, thank you. So, on one day, you come down to Stoke-on-Trent, sunny Stoke-on-Trent, as I call it, and during that day, you will learn where to buy for maximum results. So we'll go into detail into analysing your area, understanding supply and demand. That's critical when you're finding your first or subsequent HMOs. You'll also learn to do your area and market analysis properly, like the professionals do it. You'll understand the legislation and rules, because yeah, it's a bit more complex than single buy-to-let, but not that much more. Listen, if I can do it with failed A-levels, you can do it too. You'll learn the core hands-free systems that we use in our business, many of which are no cost or low cost. We don't believe in spending our profit on expensive systems. So if you're worried about the systems you're going to have to use in your business that are going to incur cost, I'll explain exactly how you can do this for free. I'll also show you how you can attract investors. So if you don't have any money or you're looking to increase your portfolio, how do you do it by attracting investors? I'll give you some really useful ways and insider tips. Over the last 3 years, I've raised nearly £3 million because we ran out of money quite early in our journey, and we've done all of this with other people's money. So, what does the day consist of? Well, you have a whole day with me, 9:30 till 5. I hope that's going to make you happy. Lots of funny jokes. Oh yes, absolutely. And lots of interactivity as well. Lots, I want to get you working. You're going to meet other people, meet lots of other investors, and have a great day. You'll get a comprehensive program workbook on the day, because I don't know about you, but I don't like sitting and having to make lots of notes all the time and look up and miss things. So you get a program workbook that comes as part of the day. You'll also get access to all my templates, my systems and my schedules. And you can apply all of these straight away in your business. None of them are copyrighted. You can use them as much as you like. There's thousands of pounds worth of value there. You'll get my unique HMO deal and our analyzer tool as well. If you are renting out your rooms yourself, or maybe you're doing rent to rent, you'll get a full marketing strategy. How do you make sure that your rooms attract the right tenants? And how do you make sure the tenants see your adverts? And you know, I've even had rental agents come to me and say, we're thinking of getting into HMOs, could you help us market our rooms better? So it might be that even if you're not going to be renting them out yourself, you could work with your local lettings agent and help him or her to do it well. You'll get a comprehensive online support library, and you'll have access to that forever. And also there'll be access to a unique personalised support package. So if after the event you want some more support, I'll share with you exactly how you can get that on an ongoing basis. Now, I spoke to Mo a couple of weeks ago when we were sorting out this evening, and I said, now what are these people like at the PPN? And he said, Wendy, and is that how you speak?
Close.
My best accent. He said they always want a good deal. Do you want a good deal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you deal makers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are. I can see it in your eyes. You can see it in the whites of your eyes. So I thought I'll put together a really good deal. If you're not financially free yet, spending a lot of money on courses can stretch you. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't invest in your education. You should. But I want to help you to become financially free. So I'm not going to set a price that's unrealistic tonight. But I also want people who are committed and want to go for it. Because when I get successes like Andy Harvey, it makes me look good too. So I want you to be a success. So tonight I'm going to do a no-brainer deal that I think you're going to love. And if it's something that you can see has potential, will help you to become financially free, then I want you to be first on your feet, going out to the registration table out there and registering for your place. So tonight only, for the first 6 people who register for the event, you will take away my book absolutely free. Now, it's a very simple, easy to read book, but it means that tonight you can start learning and putting your learning into practice the minute you leave the room. How does that sound to you? Yeah, you like the idea of that one? Yeah, maybe. I think you want a bit more though, don't you? Okay. What about money back guarantee? Yeah, I always give a money back guarantee. If by the lunchtime of the day you say, Wendy, I've decided I don't want to do HMOs. It's not for me after all. That's fine. You will get your money back in full. No quibble guarantee. I want people to be happy and satisfied. So that's what do you think about that one? Do you like having a guarantee? You can't lose? Okay, fantastic. So let me just run through it again. So you'll learn how to find, fund, finish, fill and future-proof your HMO. You get a program workbook. You will get all my template systems and schedules, many of which we have developed over the last 4.5 years and really spent thousands of pounds and time developing them. You'll get a full marketing strategy. You'll get access to a closed learning group that after the event carries on sharing and learning together. For the first 6 people tonight, you'll get a copy of my book and you get a full guarantee. And if you bring a partner, the second person comes half price. But you want to know what the price is, don't you? Well, you know, somebody said to me, Wendy, this day is worth £1,470. And I said, remember, we're not in the south. When we're not in the south, what do? We knock off the zero. So to you tonight, it's just £147 for a whole day when you can learn my 5-step system. Very simple, very easy. And if you bring a partner, business partner or life partner, then together you can come for just £220. And even better, there's no VAT. The price you see is the price you pay. So if any of you are saying to yourself, I really want financial freedom, That figure you put in your mind a few minutes ago, that's the figure you should be aiming for. And I want to show you how you can do that. With 4 boys and lots of other things going on in my life, I've done it. And I do totally believe that by following a simple 5-step system, you can do it too. Because remember, all you have to do is think big and grow larger. Thank you. And with that, I would like to say take risks. Because if you win, you'll be happy. But if you lose, you will be wise. That's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.